I did not even know if I was mentally ready for this. The man who is Sarah's dad, so I guess my father-in-law, Mr. Marc Abram, welcome to the show.
Well, and I think it's important to actually lift these kids up and give them something to work for, because if they don't, they'll fail for the rest of their life. Having money is important.
Yes, yeah. No margin, no mission.
Not that we're trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, I know.
That's how we live.
Yeah, they knew I had diabetes. They're like, let's kill him off and maybe she'll try again.
It's about the two of you. So every decision you make from that point on doesn't just affect you, it affects everything around you. It affects your wife, it affects your kids, it affects your entire extended family as well.
This is the Unleash Your Purpose podcast.
All right, well, welcome back to Unleash Your Purpose podcast with your host, Ryan Centers. So glad you're here. Make sure if you find any value in today's episode that you subscribe and like and join our newsletter by checking out the website. And I am excited to have the extreme honor. I did not even know if I was mentally ready for this, for the legend, for the man who is my dad and is Sarah's dad. So I guess my father-in-law, Mr. Marc Abram, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
And he does have a podcast. Boys, he's made for this. And
I just feel honored to be here.
Yeah, there you go. We today in our conversation, there's so many different things we could talk about, but we are business partners in Hanai. But I wanted to talk about our business ventures together and how we have created a multi-generational business. And I think that's kind of a really cool concept and how that's such a longing for my heart. But I wanted to take you back to the day that I went to your house to ask Sarah for permission for me to marry Sarah. Do you remember that?
I really it's memorable because you were a nervous wreck. So yes. Yeah.
I had a sweating problem then, like I do now. Yes. And Sarah and I were dating for a year. I wasn't as nervous for you, but Sue, on the other hand, I was terrified. But we went to your house and asked for your permission, and you were hesitant.
I was. Well, she was my princess.
That's true.
You're taking my princess away.
That's right.
And honestly, I'm not sure you could have handled her at the time. So that's why
you were probably right.
Hesitant. Yeah,
you're very hesitant. You gave your blessing half-heartedly, I felt like. It's more of you're not living together. No, sir, we're definitely not living together. I don't remember other things you said. Yeah. I kind of blacked out.
It was dark times.
It was dark times. Yes. And I remember even the first several years of marriage, you had such a great example of manhood and being a husband that it was honestly it produced a lot of insecurity in me. And it caused a lot of angst within Sarah and I, if you remember those days.
Oh yeah, that's the way all marriages start out anyhow. Yes. So, I've been at it almost 44 years now, so yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out.
I remember the day, so I was living up in Flagstaff. I was in graduate school, and she was moving up to live with me. You guys dropped her off at our apartment, and I had the apartment, and then you guys left, and it was the first time she was alone without you guys there. And I was we had the apartment, we had these two wild dogs, and I said, all right, I'll order some pizza. And I ordered a pizza, and I was big into fitness. So I thought a small pizza would be just fine. So I ordered a small pizza, and it gets delivered to our house. And as she sees it, she's like, all you got was a small. And she immediately starts sobbing. You were gone maybe 20 minutes, and she's sobbing because I'm starving her to death.
Well, and you got to realize, and you probably knew that, she was a breadaholic. So
yes, your whole family's bread.
If there's bread on the table, yes. It better be plenty.
The one thing I think I've maybe helped the family on is let's do a little less carbs in our life. Every time we go to visit your house, there is pasta, bread, a second type of bread, a bread dessert, and diabetes all around.
It's not that we're trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, I know.
That's how we live.
Yeah, they knew I had diabetes. They're like, let's kill him off and maybe she'll try again.
Yeah, Ryan's coming over. Let's do pasta.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah.
Wow, you bastard.
We've learned to love you over the years. So yeah, we're still working on it. But
and over the decades of being together, like, I mean, vacation together, what I would say is like, you have shown me how to be a dad and a husband and a man in ways that no one else has.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It was a hard journey for me because I had a terrible role model. And I give it all to God, the fact that I can be the dad I am, only because it was never modeled to me. So I just knew how I didn't want to be, which forced me into being who I was.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was definitely a young, insecure guy, and just needed to watch. And you were always so gracious and taught me how to. You probably bought me more toolkits than any human. And
every Christmas for 5 years because you kept losing them.
I know. When I say lost them, I mean I was selling them to make rent. And but I do remember this one time when Sarah and I hit a rough patch. This is when you know you're such a man of God, and I could turn to you and had such deep trust. Sarah and I got in a huge fight. I got mad. I wasn't my best self. I punched a hole in the wall, and I remember saying that, "Hey, can you come? I messed up. Can you come? Can you come over?" And you brought all your toolkit and all your stuff for the patch of the holes.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, and then you shut the door and you talked about how your dad had anger, and that if you're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it was like it was like I was like being called, like not just scolded, but called up. And it was like this refining moment of my life. I don't even think you realize how significant that was.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And I was patching that hole, and I was like, I am going to do this different. And I remember that was like a first, a first season of counseling to kind of get my life together and to realize who I am.
Yeah.
And it was never any, like, I just let like my insecurity, like, just get the better of me. And I was like, this is not who I am.
Yeah. And that's the hardest thing about living life, period, is finding out who you don't want to be. And then how are you going to tackle on not being that person?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where walking side by side with Christ helps you down that journey, because there's been so many times in my life I could have easily reverted back to being like my dad. But I knew that wasn't, number one, I didn't want my kids to see me that way.
Yeah.
And I wanted to treat my wife with the respect that she deserved. And that's how I make every decision. One of the things I've always said, that when you get married, it's no longer about you. It's about the two of you. So every decision you make from that point on doesn't just affect you. It affects everything around you. It affects your wife. It affects your kids. It affects your entire extended family as well. And
you're a man of like, you don't have a lot of words at times, but your like actions of your life have just exemplifies that. And you constantly keep your wife as your priority, and she puts you as her priority, and you just watch it like it works. And you're like, wow, what a beautiful picture.
Yeah. And
now it's like, it's kind of it's like been so ingrained in my brain of like, all right, Sarah is number one. She's my number one. And guess what? I'm her number one. And guess what? We're not fighting to be first. We're both at the top of the list. And then we're both pointing to God, and everything else falls in line.
Yeah. I remember we were walking, the four of us were walking, and you said something about marriage is 50-50. And I remember clearly telling you, no, it's 100-100.
That's right.
Because you have to be able to hold up the pile when your partner doesn't hit that 100% mark. And you have to give 100% regardless of what's going on around you, and your partner has to do the same. If it's 50-50, if one person falls off, you're short of 100.
That's true.
And so that's why.
And like, I think that is so part of our culture and been infused of like, hey, as long as we're partners, you have your money, I have my money, we 50-50 separate. And it's like, it's like this competition almost emerges. Like we're not measuring up. But when you're giving all of yourself, and I've watched you do that, it's like, wow, that's when it works. And it's been a really, really humbling experience and a great example. So I'm so appreciative of that. Well, I didn't think we were going to talk about that.
Thought we were going to talk about business.
Yes. So we got into it. Let's change the subject right quick. Enough emotions for the day.
Good thing you have someone that can edit.
Yeah, edit this out. So I remember another thing. I remember there's so many stories that we could kind of share. But you actually joined the Ohana team about 4 years ago.
January 1st, 2020.
January 1st, 2020, 4 years ago. And it's another moment of my life. So just so people are aware of the kind of the context you're coming into. Up to this point, I grew Ohana, Sarah and I, pretty much on our own. We had a friend of mine who was a part of it. At this point, though, we went from like 1 home to 5 homes. I went to like 6 employees to 50 employees. And then as the employees got more, the responsibility got bigger. And we had several homes, and I knew I was a Dave Ramsey guy, knew finances, but the way I would decide if we could make payroll was simply by looking in the bank account, which is a very sophisticated way to run a business. And do I have enough money to make the bills?
Having money is important.
Yes,
Yeah.
No margin, no mission. And for me, I for so long was just looking at the bank account, and I would always say, yeah, sure. Never had a budget for the business. And it was just like God was blessing it, and I was just trying to be diligent and just going. I was just like, there was opportunity, and I was able to project out money. But after a while, once things got to a certain size and we're doing a couple $1,000,000 and 50 employees, like I remember I could not breathe. And we're at this Anchor House or single mom shelter doing a work day. And it was one of my, like a pivotal moment of the business where I felt like I was going to lose it. And you had a full-time job, high level executive corporate position,
right?
And living out of town, making good money. And I said, Dad, is there any way? Well, of course, I was crying, so I was trying to get the tears going to like guilt you into this.
I know. That's right.
But I was having like a breakdown at that moment, and I just said like I couldn't breathe, I couldn't do this anymore, and I said I can't do this.
Well, and I remember that clearly because I know you had asked me several times prior to that to come work for you, and my answer was always, "You can't afford me." And yeah, that's and
I couldn't.
Yeah, you couldn't, but we made it work.
Yes.
We made it work. So I did. I took a huge pay cut because I believed in the mission.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in what you're doing at Ohana.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to be a part of building the legacy for my grandkids. So I took the leap. I took the pay cut and jumped in both feet.
And you when we had no budgets, like you created budgets.
Yeah.
You helped create like financial controls, and you've had a million different jobs: chief operations officer, facilities director, CFO, development officer, started businesses, countless different divisions. And you were like the Swiss Army knife and most trusted advisor in Ohana.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
And we love to drink a good whiskey and
yes, we do.
Dream together. And I always tell people they never knew that we were family.
Right.
And I think that's really good because my dad, but also like this is like your like we're in business together.
Right.
So is that weird for you? Like you're technically like I'm your boss, but not really, which is kind of awkward.
Well, I think, and one of the things that I said when I first came to Ohana was, I don't want to be called dad.
Yeah.
I want people to know that I'm here to work.
Yep.
I'm not being brought in to, so you can help me in my career.
Right.
I'm being brought into work.
Yeah.
And I want to be a help, and I don't want people to use the stigma of, oh, it's his father-in-law, so that's why he's here.
Years, no one knew.
Yeah.
No one knew.
Yeah. Because even Sarah called me Mark.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And they just knew that you were like able to help bring these financial controls and had this business acumen that we were very much lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the strengths that we've had and kind of learned through is like when you have a family business, there's like multiple hats we wear. There's like the family hat. When I'm at your house, you're Papa,
Right.
and I'm the son. And I know that role, and it's not like a boss work relationship. But then there's also times when we're at work, we're like, okay, I'm the CEO of the company at this moment.
Right.
But then when we're out, it's like, no, we're family.
Right.
And we vacation together all the time. And that's in family mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the key, is being able to discern the difference.
Yes.
And cut it off.
Cut it off is key.
And just know that, hey, personal is personal, business is business. And in business, when you're doing business with family, I've seen many companies hire family, and then the family just gets put in a closet and gets paid money to do nothing.
Right.
And
then they bring in probably the family drama into there.
yeah,
And
exactly.
it's like for us, it's like there is this veil, and it's almost like our brains need to say like, all right, this is business brain, and we're all on a mission to make Ohana better.
Right.
We each have a role and responsibility.
Yeah.
But then there's the family brain.
Yeah. Well, work is work.
Yeah.
Play is play, and family is family.
Yes.
And you just have to know to separate it.
Yeah.
And not to commingle it, because that's what gets.
Has that ever
people in
been
trouble.
hard?
I've never found it hard.
I know, me neither. I'm trying
It's
to like
been-
make it like, I'm like, give me something deep. I'm like, honestly, it works
Yeah.
because we're like, I think we're really good at that part.
But I think the big issue there, or what's really helped, is the fact that I'm not a freeloader.
Exactly.
You know? So I do.
You
work.
produce and you
I-
make
I
and you do
know-
a lot of work and
I
you
know
make a
what
lot.
work is, and
Yeah, and you like to show-
just-
You're like, hey, I'm on vacation. You're like, really? You're like, you're never on vacation. I have to say, hey, why don't you come on vacation with us?
Yeah, I remember doing payroll from Cabo or from Cancun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, hold on, I'll be right there at the beach.
I'm
Just
drinking,
let me do
I'm drinking a
payroll.
Corona.
Yeah,
I'm the CEO. I gotta take some time off.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And so that's been a really fun kind of journey, and then that kind of helped transition us into a new venture together.
Correct.
We so you and I are business partners with one other guy on Hanai,
Yes.
which is our coffee cafe in Levine. We're opening up a second location very soon. Very exciting. And that has been a fun journey, going together.
It's been I've started a few businesses.
Yes, you have.
I have one that's still operating, not very well, but but I will tell you that one of the businesses I started several years back, a construction company, with a couple partners, and I was telling you about being equally yoked.
Okay.
And when you look at your partners and they really know the business, let's get in on it. But then after you start the business, you see their intention was just to make money. It was nothing about doing good in the world. It was nothing about helping employ people. That's the difference where I think we stand with Ohana and Hanai specifically, is it's about employing people.
Yeah.
Specifically those who are in need, like the foster kids aging out of the system.
Yep.
So there's a pure mission to it. The business I started, the construction business I started, as soon as we incorporated and we got our first job, my two partners were talking about the race cars they were going to build and buy and all their trucks that, I was still driving my 2001 Dodge pickup, and they were buying all brand new vehicles. It's like, so
how does that not build up so much frustration and animosity? I don't know.
Yeah, it did. Well, and that goes back to the whole thing about being equally yoked. And I think that's where we fit in. We both see the mission and vision, and we walk it. So, the analogy there is, when you put two oxen together, if they're not equally yoked, if one's stronger than the other, they don't go in a straight line. The stronger one pushes them, and they end up going round and round in circles. But when you're equally yoked, you can go down that straight path together. Right. And I think that's where being a business partner that's
Mhm.
equally yoked. We have the same mindset. We both have Christ in our heart.
Yep.
We both see the mission. We have the vision, and
That's
we're
right.
going it together.
That's
We're
right.
going down that straight path.
And then, yeah, and I love that. And like that equally yoked, there's like when you have two oxen, they're like these old cattle. So when they're one can pull by itself maybe 15,000 pounds, another one can pull 15,000 pounds. So you think, oh, together they can do 30,000.
Right.
But in actuality, when they're joined together, they can do like 45,000 pounds.
Correct.
So when you're together and you are equally yoked together, the impact that you can have is so much more significant.
Very true.
And so, and for us, we both, have the same vision on that. And it makes sense because you've had unequally yoked partners, so have I.
Yeah.
And I would never do it again.
Yep.
That is a wound, a battle wound. I will soon let heal and let that sunset.
Yeah.
Hey, fellow purpose-driven leaders, if you're loving what you're hearing, we need your help to keep spreading inspiration so others can unleash their purpose too. If you're finding value in our discussions about purpose, entrepreneurship, faith, and family, here's how you can support us. First off, hit that subscribe button right now to make sure you never miss an episode. By subscribing, you'll get notified every time we release a new podcast packed with wisdom and encouragement. Next, take a moment to share this episode with your friends, family, and followers. Whether it's a text message, a post, or a shout out, your recommendation helps us reach more people who are seeking inspiration on their journey. And finally, if you've been enjoying our podcast, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews not only motivate us to keep creating great content, but they also help others discover our show and join our purpose-driven community. So let's keep the momentum going. Subscribe, share, and review the Unleash Your Purpose podcast today, and together, let's make a positive impact on the world, one listener at a time. Now let's dive back into today's episode. Yeah, so we launched Hanai, and I think one of the coolest things is that when we're there, it's a family business together.
Right.
And having my daughter work there over the summer, and then watching my soon-to-be adopted son work there in the fall, and then you're there helping out too, and they're learning from their papa, like customer service or how to take care of customer or hard work ethic.
Yeah, and that's key for me. That's key for especially kids nowadays.
Yes,
is everybody's so into the social media. And I've had a few comments of, well, when I grow up, I'm going to be a YouTuber. Really? It's unfortunately, it's almost like the people in Little League that,
want to go pro.
One in 100,000 might make it to the pros someday.
Exactly.
And teaching kids good work ethic and knowing what strong work is, what hard work is, what value work brings to you as well.
Yes.
Not that everybody's going to be good at it, but I do think that somewhere along the way, if you have that good ethic, it doesn't matter what career path you take.
Yeah.
You perform well.
Right. And I think for us doing it together and then having the kids involved, like for me, this is such a redefining picture of the life that I want to have.
Right.
Is like this team that we're multi-generational, that my kids need to learn from you and learn the stories from you and the work ethic from their grandparents. And not just what they see on social media or the screen. But no, there's so much depth and wisdom there that actually helps them become a better person, human. And that's
exactly.
And God honoring kid. And I need to get them around that as much as can.
Yeah.
And now we got a mission together. We have a family mission that we're a family. We go like, all right, we're going to not just make this business profitable, but we're going to make sure a dozen kids go through work program.
Right.
That we're going to make sure that this next kid is the general manager for this place.
Yeah.
That we help launch another Hanai, and we help launch a coffee shop or a coffee cart in this kid who was in foster care, is entrepreneurial, and he has his own. And he makes his own money. I'm like, that's a dream.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think it's important to actually lift these kids up and give them something to work for.
Yes.
And give them something to work towards, I should say. because if they don't, they'll fail
Mhm.
for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And if you have a good, solid foundation, regardless, like I said, regardless of the career path you choose, you're going to be successful.
Right.
And so many people float from job to job, and sometimes that's okay because they're just trying to find their place in life.
Yeah.
But they still need that solid foundation to
Right.
make it work.
I guess, what do you hope for your grandkids?
I hope for my grandkids to be satisfied with life.
Okay. What does that mean?
Well, that there's no, the idea is that they're going to be able to get through life, regardless of the obstacles that they come across. And I think that's key for a lot of things we do, even in business, is how do the obstacles affect you? Do you cut and run when you run into a roadblock, or do you try to figure out how to get around it? Right. So I want my grandkids to be the kind of people that figure out what's the next thing. How can I conquer this? How do I get past this? If I run into a relationship problem, how do I work it out versus cut and run? If I don't like my job, what is it that I really want to do? And just give them that thought process to make them think at a higher level than have everything just handed to them.
That's great. Yeah, I think that would be a really good day.
Yeah.
You
always, as a parent, you want your kids to succeed better than you. And as a grandparent, you want your grandkids to do better than your kids.
That's right.
And you're always wanting the next generation to level up.
Yeah.
And that's just my hopes for my grandkids, is that they level up.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. So like, I feel like Sarah and I are standing on your shoulders, meaning like you guys have left such a legacy, and you've been given us such opportunities that we want to steward that well and take it to the next level. And now that's the same for our kids. We want to put them on my shoulders, and their life is different than Sarah and I's life ever was.
Right.
Like, yeah, they get to go on more vacations. They get new shoes a couple times a year, and their cleats run out, and they get to do club soccer and all these other things. Their life is pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't want, it's that whole saying of like strong, oh gosh, I'm going to butcher it. Strong men create weak times, weak times create
strong men.
Yeah, something around that.
Yeah.
Totally
I think for me, it's,
I don't want my kids to become weak because it's comfortable.
Right.
So like what you're saying is like helping them learn. They bust tables at the Hanai.
Exactly.
You are the lowest.
Yeah. They should not feel entitled.
Yes.
In any way.
Right.
They should be appreciative of what they have. And they should also know that because of what they have, they should be also very giving.
Right. What advice would you give? Say there's a family who has that want to start a business together. What advice would you give them?
I think for me, when you're going to start a business, number one, you can look at what you're good at.
Yep.
But you also need to find out what's your passion. I know a lot of people in business that absolutely can't stand going to work every day, but they feel stuck in what they're doing. And that is so miserable in life, to hate to do what you do every day. If you're a neurosurgeon and you can't stand the sight of blood, you shouldn't be in that field.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just want my kids, my grandkids, to enjoy what they do every single day. And I think if a family wants to start a business, number one, what are you passionate about?
Okay.
And number two, can you find the competence to understand the business?
Yeah.
If you don't have the competence, then surround yourself with the people that are competent.
And I think you need to also define your roles and kind of where do you sit in the, meaning like for me, I'm not super good at I'm good at digesting data, but not good at putting the data together. I'm not good at the operations. I get distracted very easily.
Right. Yeah.
I'm good at maybe the marketing side and helping come up with some ideas and the vision side, but like where you were really, if we had both of just mine,
Yeah.
this
If we were
would
two idealists and always thinking about what's next and nobody was there to execute the plan,
oh, what a nightmare.
that's the problem. And I think where families will go wrong starting a business is the husband and the wife will want to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to have a separation of roles.
Yep.
I think it's important. Not everybody likes policies and procedures.
Yeah.
But to me, policies and procedures give you freedom.
Yeah.
It gives you the lane that you can walk through.
Yeah.
Versus always trying to figure something out.
Right. And I think one of the most beautiful things about doing a business together is, can be a family legacy. Mm-hmm. But you also have to remember that this is family business. It is two separate things. So learning how to turn it off is a skill, and it takes, especially for like the ones who are like, both of you are pretty driven and hardcore, and it's hard to have any other fun besides business.
Yeah.
But it's like learning to turn that off, and finding other things to enjoy, which kids are good to help with that.
Well, and I've been very blessed. My wife is very understanding. Mm-hmm. When I used to work 14 to 16 hour days.
Yes.
But she'd also raise the white flag when it was time for me to stop.
That's right.
Many times, especially when I started at Ohana, she'd say, are you going to get off the computer? It's time to go to bed. And it's like, okay, dear.
Yes.
So she keeps me in check, which is very good.
Yeah.
It's because I'm an overdoer.
Yeah.
I like to overachieve,
mm-hmm.
and she helps me stay in line.
And there's no shortage of vision and new ideas.
Yeah.
Like this new ranch we're going to be building
I'm
together.
Excited. I'm
this
excited.
Family ranch.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that, right?
I'm waiting for the pond and the fishing poles.
Yes, sir. That's right. Well, one, I'm just super grateful that you adopted me into your family, that you showed me how to be a man, a husband, and I get to do business with you.
No, thank you.
It has
been a pleasure. Love you too.
Well, thanks for coming on. Sorry it's so sentimental, but it is what it is. But until next week, may you unleash your purpose. You can profit in business, faith, and life. Subscribe.
Thanks for joining us for the Unleash Your Purpose podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. We'll see you next week.